In one of my previous videos,
So I don't know, this will be fun. I haven't watched this person's videos before, but I do actually keep somewhat close tabs on the DPRK's development. So I'm curious what other people's perspectives are. If they're informed, if they're not, I'd like to go through it.
I talked about North Korea's new 5-star beach resort. It officially opened last summer. It has a luxury 5-star hotel, modern water attractions, and the full resort facilities. On opening day, Kim Jong-un got splashed with water. At that moment, everyone thought the guy who did it was screwed. But Kim just kept smiling. He looked genuinely happy and proud. You see this 5-star resort, and you can't help wondering, has North Korea really modernized this much? But when I dug deeper, I found something surprising. This resort is actually nothing special, at least not in today's North Korea. Today's Pyongyang looks very different from what we imagine. There are modern shopping districts, high-end marketplaces, bars, Korean barbecue restaurants. There's even a car dealership. Recently, many videos from inside North Korea have appeared online. And look at the streets of Pyongyang. They look clean and modern, just like any major city. Look at the restaurants and look at the food. They have drinks imported from Japan and China. They even have pizzas and chicken wings, the most American foods you can imagine.
Bro, it's so impressive. Like, say what you want, right? I am a firm believer that there is not realistically any portion of people who think that, like, the DPRK is like this, like, super secret, like, most beautiful, wondrous country. No problems, no qualms, everything's like a utopian paradise. I believe that's like a myth. I don't think anyone truly thinks that. However, when you actually take away the bullshit, take your blinders off and look, they have done some amazing progress over the last decade. And it is just astounding when you actually factor in they've been sanctioned to hell, embargoed for decades, like over half a century at this point. Their biggest trading partner, the USSR, disappeared in the 90s. Lately, Russia has been supplying them with some foods and some materials. But overall, really, really thinking about how this really tiny country, right, a country smaller than the state of Minnesota, is is able to withstand decades of embargo sanctions, the inability to trade, constant threat of invasion from a much, much larger imperial force. It is pretty impressive. Because look at this. Like, this food does look gas. You're lying if you think that doesn't look pretty damn good. And they are just rapidly modernizing. Like, their cell phone game has improved massively. And I know there's like a very famous video on here, which I think I watched, about someone who showed like a North Korean phone, and they talked about like, oh, it's just like a shitty Huawei from like a decade ago. And like, sure, but again, you got to remember, they're doing all of this with maximum difficulty, right? This is like hardest of the hard, Tony Hawk Underground sick difficulty level, right? Like, they're going against all odds. And they're doing a great job, again, over the last decade.
Chinese influencer found something totally unexpected. He looked at his North Korean tour guide's phone. The guide was playing Clash of Clans. But that is not the most surprising part. The most surprising part is the leaked footage where people in North Korea using WhatsApp. This is not North Korea we thought we knew. This is not a place where people starve to death. Instead, it looks like a place where people thrive in a modern society. So are these videos real? And if they are real, what do they really mean? Hi everybody, I'm Tony. Today we're going to talk about whether North Korea has really become a modern socialist paradise.
Maybe someone does think it, I don't know.
In June 2025, a video appeared on TikTok. It claimed that Pyongyang had opened an IKEA store. From the interior design to the product displays, it looks exactly like IKEA. And the store was not just selling furniture. They were selling Starbucks coffee, Haagen-Dazs ice cream, Pop Mart figures, and even Dyson products. So did IKEA really enter North Korea market? But then the video showed more. It turned out this was part of a shopping center. And the mall looks pretty awesome to me. The interior looked modern, and the product looked completely global. Now you might say this cannot be North Korea. Someone must filmed it in China or South Korea and claimed it was Pyongyang. Fine, let's take a closer look. In another video, you can see an information kiosk. The browser is Google Chrome, but you cannot open Google on it. And look at the Starbucks logo. The mermaid's face is completely covered up. In the final scene of the video, you can clearly...
That's so funny. That's so funny that they just like scribbled it out with Sharpie. I believe, because there's two possibilities, because North Korea does, like he was showing that shopping center, like they do have like luxury brands or like Western brand stores there. And obviously it's not because like those brands opened up or started selling products. There's two options. One, they got it elsewhere, like either through China or Russia, like they were able to get some goods in, or they just made like the exact same replica, and like, you know, they were able to get the specs or whatever it may be to create it and then just resell the exact same thing. And it's just really funny to think that they took the time to scribble out the Starbucks logo, because I think that is probably their way to just like, hey guys, we'll give you treats and goodies, but, you know, still fuck the West, which I'm all for, but it's just silly a little bit.
Clearly see the North Korean flag on top of the building. You might say Google does not work in China either. So here's a stronger proof. I found another video under the uploads profile. The video was a vlog touring a mall. And this time there was a clear close-up of the IKEA store. And you can see on one of the walls there was a poster. A child was holding a North Korean flag. And then things got even crazier. Adidas, Chanel, Dior, SK2, all kinds of global brands are available in this shopping center. So what happened to all those sanctions? How did these products enter North Korea? And how can they be sold openly in Pyongyang? This time, the internet exploded. Even the Sun quickly picked up the story. The Sun took a clear position. They said North Korea was copying these brands, and not even trying to hide it. IKEA responded in the report. They said they have never opened a store in North Korea, and they have never given any authorization either. A Swedish scholar offered another explanation. He said the mall vlog was clearly propaganda. Nothing in North Korea happens without the state. He also argued that if the video could be posted on TikTok, then it must have been proved by the government, because ordinary North Koreans do not have access to the internet. And the uploader's account was called the DPRK Times, and the account posted many similar videos. In one video, North Korean students spoke fluent English. In another video, North Korean women use smartphones. So what is this really? North Korean propaganda or real life inside North Korea? Before we answer that, let's look at something else, something even more interesting. An article published by North Korean media back in April 2025. The article says the general visited a newly built internet cafe with his daughter. The cafe is in Pyongyang. It is described as North Korea's first internet cafe, but officially it is called a computer entertainment center, and it is classified as a public internet facility. My Western viewers may not know what an internet cafe really is. So an internet cafe is very common in Asian countries. It is a place where people pay by the hour. They use high-end computers to go online and play games. Usually friends go together to surf the internet and play games together. This entertainment center has 300 seats. The lighting is blue and white. Sharp lines, very futuristic. But there is one thing I want to ask the general. Where are the computers? Why are there no computers in this internet cafe? Do you only provide gaming chairs and desks, and the people need to bring their own computers? If that's the case, this place feels like a buffet where you have to bring your own food. According to this article, the general seems very pleased after he was told that the cafe would become very popular among young people. But look carefully. There are no computers, but every row of tables has exactly 5 gaming chairs. That is a standard esports formation. So clearly the general understands esports very well. Why does he know so much about esports? Because he plays himself. A few years ago, people discovered a Steam IP address coming from Pyongyang. That IP probably belonged to either Kim Jong-un or his brother Kim Jong-chul. Kim Jong-il's personal chef Kenji Fujimoto also wrote in his memoir that Kim Jong-un loved video games since childhood. He used to play the Nintendo Entertainment System a lot. And yes, he's probably a very experienced gamer. And according to some younger defectors, video games in North Korea are actually quite common in these days. They can play games like FIFA FC, some even play the GTA 5. If we look at mobile games...
Yo, that's fucking awesome. Their introduction for like American culture, American stuff is Grand Theft Auto 5. I mean, it's not like an inaccurate representation. It's just that's really fucking funny. I'm also curious if like it's dubbed over or if they have subtitles or if like they just I don't know, don't let them uh like use or like they don't care about like the words, I guess. Or like they just like play the game and just do whatever they want. So I guess you could. But that is funny. Oh man. Also with the gaming thing, I do think people forget that you can take pictures of a project before it's complete. So if they were just showing the space and just showing this is where the computers will be, this is where people will sit, we're not done yet. I I don't know. I just feel like people like forget that. At least when it comes to the DPRK, when they forget about North Korea, they think, nah, man, you can only take pictures of a project after it's done. People only do walkthroughs after it's done. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong. Like the DPRK, of course, like they have a lot of state control, so like that's why you see like their leader go through like a fucking gaming setup. But again, it's a very poor country. They want to give people, stuff to do. People need, um, when you're coming from a very poor starting point, right? Because in the '90s they had a very famous horrible famine after the collapse of the Soviet Union. People weren't able to eat. They weren't able to feed themselves. They didn't care about luxury goods. They cared about like I need to eat, have clothes, have shelter, the basic necessities. Now, it is still not perfect, but they have improved due to agricultural methods that they got from China and some food resources that they've been getting from Russia over the last few years. They've been able to meet, all in all, those basic needs for the vast majority of their people. Now, once you get those, people want luxury goods. A very famous example is the Soviet Union itself, very heavily just focused on necessities. Okay, and necessities are important, obviously. As an American, as a Western person, I have seen people not get those bare necessities. Also, most people, do have those bare necessities, but once you get those, you want luxury stuff. You want something nice. Now that doesn't mean you want like a Gucci belt, but yeah, once your belly's full, you finished your day of work, you're hanging out with your family, you might want a TV show to throw on. You might want some music to listen to with your friends. You might want some video games. You might want different options for like your bike that you take to work, right? You want a little bit of some comfort, some luxuries. So that is why I think the DPRK is very heavily focusing on resorts, tourist destinations, and the tourist destinations are mostly internal use, right? Like, obviously, as an American, I cannot go, my country bars it. And if you would like to go outside of the US, you do have the ability to go. There are certain areas where you're kind of, like, hey, I'd like to go to Pyongyang, and then they'll show you around Pyongyang. Or I'd want to go to, what's the other one called? Hyeongsang, I think. But yeah, like you could go there, but like it's a little bit less of I just want to take a ticket to North Korea, go there and just travel, walk around. That's not doable at the moment. But inside of the People's Republic of Korea, they do have more luxury resorts, more parks available for people than they used to. And that's just what you see in general with countries, even countries that don't have the same starting point as North Korea. Eventually, once the people's needs are met to a certain degree, people will inevitably want their treats. They'll want their goodies. It's kind of, the old human nature thing, right?
We can even see Clash of Clans as I mentioned at the beginning. But when I studied that video closely, I noticed something strange. This version of Clash of Clans does not look very official. It looks more like a North Korean knockoff version. The archers became North Korean-style female soldiers. The Western fantasy elements are gone. No undead kings, no magic kingdoms. Everything looks like ancient Korea instead. For mobile games, changing the graphics is not that hard. But the real question is this: where did the source code coming from? Did the North Korean hackers get their hands on it? Besides stealing Bitcoins and reporting my channel, are they also stealing the source code of popular games? Actually, my channel has been getting very low views lately. I sometimes wonder if it has anything to do with North Korean cyber teams. So please, like and subscribe. Your likes and comments are the best weapon against North Korean cyber army, and I really appreciate it. But here's another question. Are these apps downloaded from the App Store? Can North Koreans even access our App Store? Well, the answer is no, they cannot. But North Korea has its own App Store, and it is very North Korean. Why? Because their App Store is literally a store. If you want a new app, you have to go there in person. You walk in and look at the wall covered with app posters. You pick the app that you want to download. And finally, a staff member installs the apps onto your phone. So you might ask, after all this talk about app stores and mobile games, do North Koreans even have smartphones? They're supposed to be poor. How can they afford mobile phones? On June 18, 2025, North Korean State TV introduced a new phone. The brand was called Mateisen. And this was not an ordinary phone. It was a foldable phone. Kim Jong-un himself seems to love foldable phones. During a missile launch inspection, he was once photographed with Huawei foldable phones on his desk. And in this report, state media said mobile phones are essential devices in modern communication and an indispensable part of everyday life. North Korea's official carrier Koreolink was founded in 2008. According to North Korea, within just a few years, the company already had over 2.5 million users. Today, that number has roughly tripled. According to factor Cho Woo-sung, he said mobile phones became widespread after 2009. At that time, he was studying electrical engineering at a North Korean university. He said the government issued the phone was called the Ariran. To own an Ariran phone and the phone number cost about $2,000. And the usage was limited. Each month, you could only talk for 200 minutes and send 50 text messages. If you used them up, you had to pay another $8.4 for 200 more minutes.
And that's, again, going back to, they are still a poor country, don't get me wrong. Although I have mentioned and talked extensively already how they have been improving and they've helped their material conditions quite a bit, they're still a very, very poor country, right? Again, they're doing this on the maximum difficulty. So yes, their towers and their broadband is not as complex and refined as we may have in the West. And that is obviously, once again, because they are doing this on maximum difficulty. This is extremely impressive. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? People still need smartphones. It's easier to communicate. It's easier to, track people, to, keep in contact with loved ones, right? We all know, we all have smartphones, right? I don't need to explain the importance of them. They know the importance of it. They just don't have the capacity to give everyone an unlimited data plan, maximum download speeds, everything, right? And a part of it too is, of course, the government of the DPRK does, and I use this word not as necessarily a negative most of the time, but they do a lot of repression. That repression is based off of like the fear of the West incoming, trying to do color revolutions, or just trying to do standard, come in and covert operations. I understand why they are a very restrictive nation. Do I, am I going to sit here and lie and say like all of it's perfect and great? No, it's not. Like some of these restrictions are a bit dumb, a bit silly, but you have to understand where it's like most of it's coming from. Most of it, similar to China and Russia, comes from like, yeah, if we just let everyone have like maximum freedoms, like the West has, what they value as freedoms, like it's a lot easier for the US to come in and do a coup or just start up trouble, start riots, just do a full-blown invasion if need be. And we've seen it in countries, specifically socialist experiments that give a lot of liberties, such as Chile, right? Allende, very popular example. Chile was thriving until they, they didn't do anything, right? They had full freedom of the press. They let the bourgeois repressive class still talk about whatever they wanted to do. It made it real simple for the U.S. to come in the original 9/11 of 1973, to install Pinochet. And that just ruined the country, right? I promise you, if after 1974, 1973, whenever they installed Pinochet, if you would have asked the people, hey, would you have been okay if we just didn't have as much freedom of the press, but this would have prevented like one of this mass murdering dictators to come in and destroy your country and sell off all of its resources to American companies, I'd assume a good chunk would say yes. Because then you go back from, you know, you got your basic needs met, then you want your luxuries, but then Pinochet comes in, you don't even have your basic needs or your luxuries. You would say, yeah, I'll take some of my luxuries away if my basic needs are still there, and we can still have a good few luxuries within, right? And this isn't a place coming out of just paranoia, right? It's not just, oh, well, it happened in Chile, it happened in Libya. You know, it's happened multiple times, and the U.S. has made it very clear that if it wasn't for the nukes and it wasn't for the fact that they've built up their military and how difficult it is to infiltrate the DPRK, they would have tried to install a new puppet leader and or just, you know, have South Korea take control of the North.
Many students could not even afford the monthly plan, but they still spent a huge amount of money to buy a phone. Not for practical reasons, because only a phone was a status symbol. Normal phone numbers started with 191 or 193, but special numbers started with 195. And those numbers came with 100 extra minutes. So students with 195 numbers often agreed to lend their phones to others, because a special number meant connections. Connection to the government, to the military, or to the party. When people saw a 195 number, they treated you with more respect. And this is what Cho Woo-sung told us about mobile phones in North Korea 10 years ago. Today, we don't know exactly how much has changed, but one thing is certain. North Korean phones still use the domestic network called Kwanmyeong. And on their domestic network, there seems to be more surprises. Beside Clash of Clans, another image has surfaced on the internet. It looks like a chat record from Line. And you have to know, Line is a messaging app from South Korea. And the Line advertisement can even be seen openly displayed in North Korean malls. So is this the real Line or a North Korean copy? If it is a copy, I have to say it is done very faithfully. Even the Line rabbit is copied exactly. They didn't even change the mascot. At least change a little bit, right? Like a Line uses rabbit, you could use a squirrel or maybe a bear. But no, these North Korean guys are only hardworking when it comes to reporting my channel. For everything else, they seem pretty lazy. Along with that post, more images.
Buddy is very salty. His views are where they want to be. I feel him though. I feel him. Maybe I might take his approach and I'll just blame Mossad for why my views aren't where I want them to be too. Although I'd probably be more accurate than he is.
Surfaced. Luxury cars with North Korean plates, coffee shops, bars, barbecue restaurant, and even a ride-sharing app. Basically a North Korean version of Uber. And then at the end, there was this photo. It looks like a library or maybe a school. A teenager playing Elden Ring on a Chinese laptop. You think I'm down talking about the good life in North Korea? Not even close. You probably know Ri Chung-hee. She is North Korea's most famous TV announcer, a national treasure and the Kim family's trusted voice. She has worked as TV announcer since 1971, that is more than 50 years. Whenever she appears on television, people in North Korea know something big has happened. In 1994, when Kim Il-sung died, she delivered the news. In 2011, when Kim Jong-il died, she delivered the news again. In 2016, when North Korea successfully tested a nuclear weapon, she was still the one making the announcement. Then in 2022, when Future Scientist Street was completed, she appeared again. But this time, she wasn't announcing the news. She stood beside Kim Jong-un at the ribbon-cutting ceremony. During the ceremony, she was moved to tears several times. And afterward, Kim Jong-un took her to the residential area. They entered one of the apartments. At the time, the 79-year-old Ri Chung-hee held Kim Jong-un's arm. Her eyes were full of admiration. It turned out the apartment was a gift for her. Her whole family stayed awake all night because they were deeply moved. The apartment is nearly 200 square meters, a true luxury home. And this is exactly the kind of reward the general gives to national talents like her. Future scientists.
That's low-key so sweet. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna front. I got a little teary-eyed and a little choked up for half a second. That was sweet. Damn. I don't know, man. This is watch a little old lady get like a surprise after like years of like dedicated service. Like, damn, that's tough, man. I don't know. Shouts out, you know. Again, I'll criticize parts of the DPRK at like right times, precise places, but like right there, like, damn, they got me right there.
Street is said to be home to top experts from many fields. applied chemistry, nuclear physics, computer science, biotechnology, even hackers, spies, and the intelligence officers. They are the people helping Kim Jong-un transform North Korea. But honestly, transform is an understatement. These are the people who help Kim stay in power. The name Future Scientist Street sounds futuristic, and according to reports, Kim Jong-un himself chose the name. And the architecture of those buildings looks even more futuristic. The blue and white tower is called a Galaxy Tower. It is 53 stories tall, about 150 meters high. It is the main building on the street. You can also see atomic sculptures in many places. They symbolize North Korea's nuclear achievements. Future Scientist Street sits along the Taedong River in central Pyongyang. There are more than 500 apartments. Each one is fully furnished. From kindergarten to university, the area has a full education system. Ri Chong-hee earned her apartment through decades of loyalty to the Kim family. And about 10 years ago, a story leaked out about this neighborhood. And it was deeply embarrassing for the regime. In 2015, when about 500 families moved in, they faced serious problems. Many apartments were unfinished. There was no water, no electricity, heating was very weak. Without electricity, elevators did not work. Residents on higher floors suffered through daily involuntary cardio exercises. But recent footage from Future Scientist Street shows something completely different. The streets are full of private cars. When I saw those private cars, I was wondering if the North Korean government giving out cars along with apartments now. And there are also nighttime videos. Bright lights everywhere. Does that mean power shortage are no longer a thing? And then there is another video from January this year. It claims these homes are part of 50,000 free apartments built in the past 5 years. At this point, I'm honestly confused, especially when I saw this giant LED screen. In my memory, North Korea's display were made out of people, but now they have real LED billboards. This is a K-pop group performing a dance routine. But then the camera turns, and you see something surprising. They are performing for a North Korean audience. That's right, this is not Seoul, this is Pyongyang. I don't know if you find this shocking, but for North Korean audiences, this must have been incredible. Look at them, vacant expression, mechanical applause. You can almost sense the shockwaves running through their heads. This is actually a South Korean concert personally approved by Kim Jong-un. It took place at the Pyongyang Grand Theater. After the performance, Kim Jong-un shook hands with every member of the group. He told them, "I was deeply moved by your songs." And in the end, he even took photos with all South Korean artists. I know it feels surreal, doesn't it? This is not the North and South relationship we usually imagine. But this footage is already 8 years old. Back in 2018, relations between North and South Korea suddenly warmed. In 2017, South Korean President Moon Jae-in said he was willing to meet Kim Jong-un at any time. And soon after, Kim Jong-un agreed to improve relations. North Korea sent a delegation to the Pyeongchang Olympics. During the opening ceremony, the two Koreas marched together under one flag. That flag showed the entire Korean peninsula. During the games, the two countries even formed a joint women's hockey team. Out of 35 players, 23 were from the south and 12 were from the north. Head coach Murray took a farewell photo with the North Korean coach. She later said the locker room felt awkward at first, but after a birthday party, the players slowly became friends. South Korean players taught K-pop dances, and the North Korean players already knew the songs by heart. But just when things seemed to be improving, something strange happened. In June 2020, during the global pandemic, North Korea blew up a building. The building was the Inter-Korean Liaison Office, and the building had only completed only 2 years earlier. South Korea has funded the project, about 17 billion won. North Korea said the demolition was because South Korea had betrayed them again. The building had shared facilities, an information center, meeting rooms, and separate offices for both sides. It opened in September 2018. Both sides worked there together without any issues. Until late January 2020, when the pandemic began, both sides withdrew. They agreed to return later, but suddenly North Korea blew up the building. The real reason is still unclear, but some people believe it was caused by balloon campaigns run by North Korean defectors. The balloons carried 500,000 leaflets, 50 booklets, and $2,001 bills. Balloon launches had happened before, but this time, the content went a little too far. It directly targeted Kim Jong-un and his wife.
If I'm not wrong, they were also sending like fecal matter too. Like they were sending like some insane shit. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, yes, Yes, like sending like packages or whatever over like a international border, especially the South to North Korean border, is gonna be met with a lot of scrutiny. But like I don't know, you just can't do that, dog. You can't. And I will also say, from what I remember, the DPRK claimed that that building was bugged, especially in like their own sides. So that may also have played a major factor, right? Like it could be, oh, they sent over a bunch of money, fuck them. Like I hate that. But like also like you sent over poop and you bugged our building. So, you know, again, let's try to take our blinders off, right? Countries don't just do shit out of like the, oh, this is so evil, I can't wait to be evil, or like, oh, this is so like, you know, I'm mad personally, so I'm gonna do this. Like that very seldomly happens. It's usually some sort of like reasoning behind it, whether it's like an economic reason, whether it's like a social, or like some sort of disadvantageous reason, right? Like they have to make some changes accordingly. So yeah, if my building was bugged, I would also expect it to get, you know, get get gone real quick.
Kim was furious and the building was then destroyed. By the way, I just covered those contents in my last video, and it was very spicy. So if you're interested, please go check it out after watching this one. So everything we just saw, the modern internet cafe, the luxury shopping malls, all of it is most likely North Korean propaganda. In simple terms, North Korea wants the outside world to believe that life in North Korea is pretty good. And even if those things are real, they are only available to a very small privileged class. But since Kim Jong
Okay, so now he's getting really funny. A, why would North Korea want everyone to think life is just like all hunky dory, right? That doesn't make too much sense from their perspective. Yes, with like their Juche philosophy, they don't want outside aid per se, but you could also make the argument that their whole Juche ideology kind of stems from necessity. We're not gonna get aid. We're not gonna be able to trade. We have to just do self-reliance. Makes sense. But on the flip side, why would they need people to think like we got Gucci over here when A, that's not going to like really attract tourists. B, even if you get tourists, that does very little for you considering you can only trade with like a handful of countries, and even then most of it has to be like under the table. Because with like Russia, for instance, a lot of their trades over the last few years has just been like military equipment for like resources, like literal food, grains, raw materials for them to use. They are not like, oh, let's get the bag, let's sell Gucci to some tourists. No, they're trying to build up. And yes, I will also agree. It probably isn't for everyone, at least like, you know, with the prices. I'm sure the the poorest members of society cannot still purchase like the most high-end luxury brands, even if they are knockoffs. But that's very similar to the West. Luxury brands are still not for everyone. Yes, in theory, I can go buy Gucci. That would financially cripple me for a Gucci t shirt. I would never recover at this current time. However, um, that's not much different over there, where people like, you know, yeah, oh, this is just for the elites, like the higher ups. Like, yeah, so is Louis Vuitton. You know, like, yeah, sure, like you'll see people purchase above their means in the West, but that's also because like A, we have like the culture for it. B, we do have the luxury of being like the richest country in human history. So like a lot of our poorer members are not as poor as the even like the middle class of the DPRK. But yeah, it again that tracks.
Jong-un came to power, he has introduced some reforms. And those reforms were part of an effort to modernize North Korea. Back when Kim Jong-il was alive, North Koreans often seemed very rigid. One major reason was clothing. Fashion choices were extremely regulated. Kim Jong-il regulated not only clothing, but even hairstyles. For example, men and women could only choose from very few approved styles. But the strangest rule was this. Women were only allowed to wear skirts, but not pants. So where did that rule come from? Apparently Kim Jong-il once said, pants are for men, skirts are for women. And I have no idea how he came up with that logic. But because of that, North Korean women could not wear pants. And today, Kim Jong-un mostly looks the other way when it comes down to clothing. So how far does that go? Around 2013, North Korea allowed the clothing black market in Chongjin to operate more openly. Every day, large quantities of Japanese fashion flowed in. There is even footage from a 2023 women's fashion show. According to reports, the clothes, the shoes, and the bags were all made inside North Korea. But then comes the real question. How are those goods actually traded? In 2013, Kim Jong-un introduced a policy. He allowed people to run their own businesses. But what does that mean? Doesn't the state assign all jobs in North Korea? So in reality, North Korea's economy collapsed after famine years. By the time Kim Jong-un came to power, the system had already been broken for more than a decade. Here's the map provided by researchers. It shows the distribution of black markets across North Korea. Especially in Pyongyang, black markets are everywhere. Without exaggeration, North Korea's economy has been stagnant for 30 years. But those black markets are the real economic lifeline of the country. One researcher who studied this closely is Daniel Tudor. He graduated from Oxford. He's a writer, a journalist, and a businessman. In 2015, through his business, he met many North Korean traders. He later published a book called North Korean Confidential. The book explains in details how ordinary people in North Korea survived through black markets. After the famine, North Korean won collapsed in value. States
I know I talked about this on the show before, but like black markets being like essentially allowed in certain like socialist experiments are always so fascinating to me, because it really does show like the government can tell like, hey, there's a demand that either we can't outwardly say that we support or we outwardly can't produce. Like we don't have the capability to do it. Otherwise, you know, it would just like ruin the economy or ruin what we have going. So we're going to look the other way. We're going to allow people to essentially do what they got to do, which is fascinating. Because I know like in the West, a lot of the time it's like, oh, well, there's like a black market, like they're just scum, they're criminals. And in these socialist experiments, it obviously they know it comes from a place of necessity. They know, all right, we need to be able to provide food and jobs for everyone. We have limited resources due to sanctions, due to embargoes. We need to let some people who are smart enough and coy enough to bend the rules just a bit so they can bring in these other goods, and we'll look the other way for the most part. Maybe once in a while, if it's like egregious or something, we'll have to crack down. But like it shows the potential flexibility, and it also shows the ever-enduring spirit of the black market. Maybe that's really what I'm intrigued with, is if there's something that people want, they're going to find a way to get it. And governments always have the option to either legalize, regulate, or just like start like a war on drugs as we did in the US and just like handprint, like fight everything about it, but still just fail miserably. Or the secret other option of, you know, kind of looking the other way. You do your thing, we'll do our thing. You keep providing the people what they need, we'll keep providing the people what they want. Let's just make it all happy. You know?
Salaries could no longer support a family. The official exchange rate was about 96 won to $1. Factory workers earned between 1,000 and 6,000 won per month. But the real exchange rate was closer to 8,000 won per dollar. That means a factory worker could work for an entire month and still earn less than $1. So people had to find other ways to survive. Home workshops worked non-stop. New goods kept appearing in the black market across in the country. Meanwhile, state factories were barely operating. I mean, who would work a full month for less than $1, right? So what can you buy on the black market? So there's a saying in North Korea: everything except cat horns can be bought. If something exists, it can be found on the black market. The markets remained unofficial through the years, but in reality, they became the mainstream economy. When Kim Jong-un came to power, he realized leaving the black markets behind was impossible. So he took another approach. He didn't shut down the black markets. He chose to regulate them. Markets were organized, locations were planned, rent was collected. And the state still made money while people fed themselves. But this period of openness didn't last long. By 2014, Kim Jong-un realized many people had become self-sufficient through the markets, and they no longer depended on the government. And that made him very nervous. So he decided to tighten control. But he also knew that if the economy relied only on inefficient state factories, people's life would fall back to the famine years. So he tried another policy. Many state factories were contracted out to individuals, something like a fixed payment deal. You pay the state a fixed amount, anything extra, yours to keep. After this policy, a new business class emerged in Pyongyang, and those are the people who own the luxury cars we saw at the beginning. So yes, Kim Jong-un did introduce some reforms, but under international sanctions and isolations, these policies could only do so much. They kept the economy from collapsing. They kept the people from starving to death. But that is all. As for the modern socialist paradise we saw at the beginning, you should think of it as the show directed by Kim Jong-un, a real-life version of The Truman Show. If you like this video, please don't...
I wouldn't go that far. I would say it's probably closer to, God, I don't even know. Probably closer to, like, again, like, higher aspirations and just, like, slow development. His video was actually pretty good. Some of his conclusions were a little silly, but I don't know. That's whatever. All right, y'all. I do got one a little close to home, okay? This one I found in the fucking wild, okay? This is